Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne. And in this podcast, I share my real world self-publishing and small business experience with you. So let's get started with today's show. Now, today's episode is a continuation of our discussion on the 2018 self-publishing survey data and what that means for you. Now, in today's episode, we're going to talk about motivations for self-publishing. And what I've done is I have grouped the types of motivations based on what they accomplish. So for example, I call it the ACME model of self-publishing motivation, and it's ACME. Now the A stands for achievement, which is attaining a particular level of success or recognition as a result of your self-publishing, fulfilling a lifelong dream, building your expert status, getting bragging rights, getting on TV or radio. It has things to do with more external recognition for your efforts. Then C stands for community motivators, and this would be offering something to your world or the world at large. You're filling an information gap, you're trying to motivate or encourage others, you want to leave a legacy, you have something important to share with the world. Those are community motivators. And money is an obvious motivator. That means getting sales and royalties from your self-publishing efforts, or using your book as a sales or marketing tool to help you make sales of your regular products and services. And then lastly, expression motivators. Now these are creative endeavors, it's self-expression, you're telling your story, you're sharing your beliefs, you love writing, all of those things that deal with creativity. So that's the ACME model of self-publishing motivation. Now, in the 2018 survey, we only had one achievement motivator in the top three motivations for the entire group, and it was fulfilling a lifelong dream. So 49.64% of those who answered the question indicated that that was one of their top motivators. And it was also the top motivator for three different groups. And it was for those who hadn't published yet, and those who were the youngest authors and the oldest authors. And I thought that was kind of interesting because, well, first of all, it's obvious. If you don't have your book published yet, fulfilling a lifelong dream by publishing your book is obvious. So for those who haven't published yet, it's kind of an obvious choice. But for younger authors and older authors, maybe not so much. Now, for younger authors, to have them select fulfilling a lifelong dream is they're still thinking about it, but they're probably thinking in terms of a long time horizon, that at some point in their future they will want to create a book. And then older authors are probably on the short time horizon and thinking, yeah, I better get my book done before I don't have any more time left. So I thought that was an interesting mix right there of answers for fulfilling a lifelong dream through self-publishing. Now, in 2018, we had not one community motivation in the top three answers for the entire survey group. And there was only one of them that ranked sixth, and that was to motivate others. But in 2016, a community motivation was the second top motivator for everyone, and it was motivating and encouraging others. And it was kind of reflective of what the group was in 2016. A lot of them were business owners, and I would presume a lot of them were coaches and consultants, since that was a lot of my network who did participate in the survey, so that kind of makes sense. But I thought it was interesting for this year that we didn't have any community motivators. And we had a much more diverse group of authors in 2018. We had a lot more young authors, we had more men, and less business owners, so more fiction authors. So I think we had a much more diverse group that was more reflective of the larger author population. So it looks like community motivators aren't that big of a deal for authors in the self-publishing arena. And money. Now you would think this was going to be high, but in 2018, making money from your book was the 4th ranked top motivator. It didn't even make it in the top 3. Now in 2016, making money was the top motivator for the entire survey group. And again, looking at the survey group where we had more business authors in the, or not, I shouldn't say more business authors, more business owners in the survey group, that kind of makes sense. So again, with this being more diverse in 2018 and probably more reflective of the author population at large, it's interesting that making money is not even a top motivator. So I think it was a really interesting finding for this year. Now, expression motivators, this is where I got really surprised for this year. The top motivator for the entire survey group, indicated by 53.24% of the entire group who answered the motivation question, was I love writing. Wow. So also in the top 3 was another self-expression motivator, which was self-expression and creativity, scratching that itch. That was the 2nd ranked motivator for this year, with 51.8% of the people indicating that. So the top 2 motivators for self-published authors in 2018 dealt with self-expression. And then the other one that we talked about earlier was the achievement motivation of fulfilling a lifelong dream. So all of these really personal development type of motivators seem to push people into this self-publishing mold for this year. So I thought that was very different. And of course, again, because of the more diverse group, it's probably more reflective of the author population at large. So I think that's really, really good that they do love writing, because as we talked about in some of the earlier episodes, they're not making a whole lot of money, so they better love writing. Otherwise, it's going to be a struggle all the way along. And in the survey, I allowed people to enter answers that were not in the list of motivators. So most of them that were the write-in answers, they were variations, or they expanded on the options that were already listed. But several of them were concerns about traditional publishing. And we're going to talk about that split between self-publishing and traditional publishing based on survey results in a future episode. So do watch for that episode to come out, because I think we need to talk some more about that self-publishing versus trying to get a book deal through traditional publishing. So a lot of the motivators that they were indicating that were write-in ones was they were frustrated with traditional publishing, and then of course self-publishing was their other option. So I think this is a really good reflection of the author population at large, and it looks like people are really, really motivated by the writing process itself. So more power to you with that. I just hope that you don't get too frustrated with not making enough money from your self-publishing efforts. And we're going to talk about the challenges of self-publishing, at least according to the survey data, in one of the next upcoming episodes. So watch for that too. And we'll talk more about the money factor in that episode. So watch for that. So if you did find these results helpful or insightful for you, I wish you would go over to iTunes and give the Heidi Thorne Show a nice rating and review. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to the Heidi Thorne Show on iTunes. I'm also on Stitcher and Podbean, and the podcast video version is on YouTube on my Heidi Thorne channel, and you can also listen to it on your Alexa device with the AnyPod skill. So a lot of different options for you to listen to this in the future. And if you have author friends, please share the Heidi Thorne, please share the Heidi Thorne Show with your author friends, and I would really appreciate that. My self-published books are available on Amazon. You just look for my Heidi Thorne author page, and they're also available, the audiobook versions, on iTunes and Audible, so look for them there. And if you'd like to connect with me, my website is simply HeidiThorne.com. So thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the next episode. And in the meantime, have a great day.